All right. I am now prepared. I've sat down. I've got my dinner over here. A Beyond Burger. Side note, I prefer Beyond Burger to Impossible Burger for a number of disagreements I have with the Impossible Corporation. Many people prefer the Impossible Burger, which I think is odd, because it tastes like soy nuts. Or it has the aftertaste of soy nuts. I like soy nuts. It's not really a problem for me. I'm just confused by the fact that that is apparently what beef tastes like. But anyways, time to do a really ill-advised thing. I'm going to record my reaction to the Rest Dave Rubin. Even though people probably won't care by the time I put it out, and even though retention rates on a video that's over an hour are bullshit, here we go. Oh, and the fact that it's totally unmonetizable. Although, in fairness, I don't actually have full monetization currently. Subscribe if you'd like to change that.
Surrounded claim is that progressives push normal, moderate Americans to the right.
I want to address this claim head on. It's dumb. It fails to understand actual politics. What happens is that people have disagreements and then they realize where they don't align. The reality is that both the left and the right are full of people who don't have clear views of their own belief systems. Sometimes you're going to deviate from one to the other. But anyone who were to leave being a Democrat because progressives seem too aggressive about health care is an idiot. But we are talking about Dave Rubin here.
To debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
So my argument here is that what progressives are doing is opening up opportunities for people to reevaluate the way that they see politics, right? Progressives are arguing that more pocket power should be delivered to the average American. That is like one of the foundational tenets of progressivism.
Yeah. Can you say with that, what is more pocket power mean?
Okay, right. So this is the idea, right, that under our current system, we see that the majority of power, as well as just like monetary control, exists within people who own private property. And to essentially decrease that gap, progressives want to give more power to those who are in the workplace.
Do you not want people to own private property?
Well, I'm definitely anti-capitalist, I would say.
Yeah.
So I would say that workers should own the means of production.
Right. Oh, so you're a communist?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know.
What is communism?
I haven't talked to a real life communist
What's
in a
a
while.
communist?
Well,
Wait a minute, Dave. Wait a minute. You've talked to Stephen Molyneux, as confirmed by the previous video, but you've never talked to a communist? Dave, that's telling.
you want the
Side note, a couple of things I learned between when I filmed the first one and this one. One, according to Dave Rubin, he was in that room for like 2 hours and 40 minutes. Or like 2.5 hours. The total length of what was posted on Jubilee is 1 hour and 41 minutes. According to Sam Seder, people who are on Jubilee get to approve an edit, which means that he approved this edit. Which means that there's like a noticeable amount of footage missing that he did not approve for some reason. Although to be fair to him, it could have been cut for other reasons. The other thing I learned is that apparently one of the things that, according to one of the people who was here debating, that was cut was any reference to Sam Seder, which is very funny.
people to own the means of production, and you don't seem to believe in private property.
The people who create value, as in create the value of commodities, should own the actual value that they create from that process, yes.
So my answer, if you want the people, everyone in this room and everyone in this country to have more, what I would want is that you would take less from them. So you tax everybody less. You remove regulation. You create the conditions for competition and capitalism so that more people will have more of their money. I want you...
But here's the problem. Here's the problem with several things. So first of all, I can tell just in the language that Dave is using that he actually does not actually understand the basic principle that this woman is trying to describe to him. I assume she is a woman. When communists or socialists, who actually both believe this, believe that labor should own the means of production, what they essentially mean is anyone working in the factory doing the actual labor should own the factory itself. And that people who want the factory to make things should then come to the factory to get them made. That is the basic concept of labor owning the means of production. Dave doesn't know that. Dave, of course, now is pivoting to his libertarian capitalist stance, which he doesn't even understand either.
I assume you work? Do you work?
Yeah.
Do you pay taxes?
Yeah.
I want you to keep more of your money.
Right.
I don't know what you do. I don't know how much you earn. Whatever.
Money is meant to be fluid. Money in an economy is meant to continue to circulate. That is the purpose of money. The idea of you keeping more of your own money is a weird concept because it's sort of like food. You only have it until you use it. Like, the purpose of money is for it to circulate. And when we pay taxes, we are helping that money to circulate. Sometimes to areas that we are not immediately thinking about. The reality is that there are lots of things that money needs to circulate in this society that the average person probably wouldn't understand why their money needed to go to that thing, but other people, or even them themselves, would certainly notice when that thing was gone. Also, as I said in the previous video about regulations, Dave Rubin is a fucking idiot. Regulations, a world without regulations is a world where we have cow brains in our milk instead of cream, and we have poison in our water and air. A world without regulations is one where it is easier to cheat you, the consumer. Regulations protect you from scams. That is just a fact. Dave Rubin is siding with the people who are already winning capitalism because, of course, he would. That's his entire worldview.
Whatever it is you earn, I want you to have more of that money so that you can put that money back into the system.
The majority of wealth in this system is owned by 1% of the population. You understand that, right? And where does that wealth come from?
Wait, 1% of the population. Do you know how much percent they pay in taxes? That 1%?
Not nearly enough, because the majority of their wealth comes from.
It's 47%. Hold on. So 1% of the population pay 47%. You accept that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would be their fair share?
What percent of that?
It is not true in a current general sense that 1% of the population pays 47% in taxes. Recent IRS data shows that the top 1% pay about 38 to 40% of all federal income tax, with an unusual peak near 46% in 2021. Across all taxes, income, payroll, state and local, their share is lower still. So Dave, not even correct about taxes. The way it's worded makes it sound like he has old data. But also, he's just wrong. And apparently, that only is for income tax. Man, he must not get a say over the fact checks in the edit. I guess that would be problematic if a person could be like, no, cut that part out. I don't like the fact checks. So the edit they must give you to approve must be without the fact checks, right? He couldn't be this stupid to let them put out this many fact checks if they showed them to him, right?
What would be their fair share?
Is their actual wealth that they own? That, again, majority of these lineages of power and ownership
what would be their
fair
share? What would be their fair share?
Accumulation of...
What would be their fair share?
I would say that the...
Just a couple things. One, Dave is actively trying to cut her off and prevent her from actually saying things. I don't remember him being quite this aggressive with some of the other, let's say, male. But the other thing here is that she has fucked up in a way, though, by even agreeing to the concept of a fair share. That is an inherently sort of capitalist concept. Because fair share implies that you deserve something instead of that you need something. The concept of fair share is, also, to be fair, also works into socialism, but it's not fully communist. Because in communism, the concept is that it's to each according to their need, as according to their ability, which means that you get what you need, and you give what you can. Someone could, theoretically and philosophically, decide that sounds like someone getting their fair share. But the reality is that the concept of a fair share is abstract, and can kind of mean whatever you want it to. For us to even go into what a fair share is, we would then have to have a conversation about how each of these people believes that wealth and or need should be addressed in society, which they are not going to have that conversation, especially not in this format.
The fact that they own so much... You're not
pay
letting me finish
47% in taxes.
That's right, you tell him, because he's not.
Here's my problem. You're not letting me finish the point, so we can't get from point A to B. Do you understand that?
Okay, so
cool.
if you accept that 1% pay 47%...
There's not going to be a fair share when their wealth is coming from the back ends of colonialism. So that's not going to work.
Okay, we got to pause there. We're going to...
The problem is, of course, that Dave is too capitalist brained to buy into any argument that features the word colonialism because in his brain that just sounds like good stuff, right?
Reset, please return to your seat. You've been voted out.
He's back. All right.
Good to see you again, Dave.
Nice to see you.
It's interesting to point to like 5 anecdotal examples as like an
This Mason fellow went on Sam Cedar. He's the guy who pointed out that they cut out all the references to Sam Cedar, some of which apparently he said.
overall consensus on where the American people are moving.
Well, I think they qualify more as more than anecdotal in that Tulsi.
Also, I will say, while I agree with that woman, I don't think that was a good way to approach the topic that he is currently trying to deal with.
Gabbard was a Democrat member of Congress. Bobby Kennedy is a Kennedy, which is a standard bearer for Democrat
Do you think
policies.
Bobby Kennedy is also in alignment with most of his family? Would you say that they would concur that he's a representative of the Kennedy family?
I don't know about most. I know some don't like
most,
him.
Most don't like
some
him.
don't.
Especially
Some
those
don't
that are
like
the
him
most
and some
vocal
do.
and still participate
Well,
in politics.
he's the
But we
one
can
that's
move
in the
from
midst
that.
of the
Talking about people like
political-
Joe Rogan, Bill Maher.
Is Dave interrupting people more now? Has he started interrupting people more? Dave must be feeling the heat.
These are people that thrive off of clicks and popularity. What's more clickbaity than I left the left? So many people get that, not just because they're getting a whole new audience in order to capitulate to, but there's also like...
So you think Joe Rogan...
There's also like a lot of like...
Wait, hold on.
There's a lot...
Actually, that's a good point. People who are publicly being like, I left the left, are almost always trying to get some level of attention for that. It's not really... So people who come out with videos and stuff about that don't necessarily tell us how many people in America actually are leaving the left. The reality is that many are not, as most people identify themselves as moderates or centrists, even though being a moderate or a centrist is essentially akin to not having beliefs.
A lot of like oligarchic money too that like
That's quite
can
a claim.
incentivize people to change their worldview.
Wait. That's
like Russian money.
Hold on. That's
like
quite,
for people like Tim Pool or like what was the Ruben report?
Yeah.
Did that also accept Russian money from Tenet?
All right, I'm more than happy to talk about that. But just very quickly, to impugn Joe's motives, that at the day before the election, he suddenly said, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump for financial or click motives when he's the largest podcaster in the world. That's what you just said.
I'm not saying it's just Joe Rogan.
That is no, but that was...
Joe Rogan is not a good example of someone leaving the left, Dave. Just because Joe Rogan destroyed you on the policies that he believes in that are technically liberal policies. Specifically, Joe Rogan, for those that don't know, had a conversation with Dave Rubin where he destroyed Dave Rubin on marijuana and regulations. Joe Rogan basically brought up the fact that it was like, no, I've worked in construction. Those people will fuck you over if there are no standards. But Joe Rogan is not truly leftist. Joe Rogan is one of those people who has a mix of politics because he doesn't have a coherent political worldview. Most people just go through life picking up random bits of politics, the parts that they think sound reasonable to them. But this isn't how you build a full political worldview. You must at least study politics on some level to have a full political worldview. Because if you do not fully understand the intricacies of the different principles and concepts behind those beliefs, then you don't actually understand those politics.
Indicative of people who rely on clicks.
That is quite
We can walk over Joe Rogan specifically.
Yeah.
I think his brain broke during COVID, I'm going to be honest. Because he went from somebody who went from like a huge Bernie Sanders supporter, so pro single-payer healthcare, ensuring that we're more diplomatic in our international
Do you think
policy,
it's possibly he just evolved?
Those,
do you think it's possibly he just evolved to different points?
All of those days.
Do you think his brain broke?
Real quick.
It's not possible that he just started thinking about things.
Dave, there's no way to argue what you were about trying to pivot to right now. The argument that you are making, like you're trying to put forward the concept that, oh, maybe he just evolved his thinking instead of having his brain broken. You have to understand that those are practically synonyms for, I am on the opposite side of where you are, and this is how I see it. Like, there's no way to prove either of your positions on that. He's not trying to debate you on that. Dave, shut up.
All of those are political foundations.
Yeah.
Believing that the United States should not continue interventionism, believing that universal health care should be a right to people, these are political foundations. You don't just switch your political foundations like that.
Well, hold on.
You
First
find
off,
that people are both.
It's worth noting that Joe Rogan once specifically said that he would sell out if they showed him the aliens. So maybe Joe Rogan saw the aliens.
Bullying you, or you're saying that that's too mean, as I've heard a lot of times.
It's not a right to someone else's labor. You have a right to
We can have a
free
universal
speech.
health care debate if you want, but I'm talking the overall.
Wait, how did you get back to that, Dave? He hasn't mentioned that. Do you equate universal health care with that somehow?
Why America shifted to the right.
But it seems
I have to talk about the last person who debated. Most people feel like they can't get a leg up in this economy.
Okay,
and when you have a Democratic Party, this is where I'm pretty critical of Joe Biden. You're going to love this.
Yeah,
You ready?
Yeah.
I think that the Biden administration and then the following Kamala Harris presidential campaign, I don't think that they focus enough on what specifically needs to change in order for the average American to feel like their economic conditions are getting better. And while we can follow the metrics economically, and inflation was going down, unemployment was lower, most people didn't feel that. And when you feel like your rent is burdening you, 34% of Americans feel rent burdened, which is huge. When you feel like the grocery prices are continuing to go higher, you're going to try to find an alternative. And when Donald Trump is saying, look, I'm going to fix all of the problems, I'm going to make sure everything's okay, some people are like, yeah, I want to go ahead and go.
Well, that's what politics is, right? Like, it's a secular four-year.
But we're not saying that ideologically Americans are more right-wing. Why do progressive ballot propositions pass even in red states? Nebraska, Ohio, we could go over minimum wage increases.
I got you. You did a lot there. Okay.
Let's answer something.
Okay, I'm trying. So first off, you want to talk about the tenant thing? What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to go? I'll even give it to you. I'll give it to you. Where do you want to go?
Yeah. Why did you take Russian money and pretend like you didn't know?
I was reached out to by Lauren Chen, who you might know as what's her name, post-millennial online, or
she's like the Canadian white nationalist that's Asian.
Roaming millennial, and I've known her for about 10 years.
Okay.
And we were friendly over the years, and we had agreements and disagreements, and we were on each other's shows. And she contacted me a couple of years ago and said that she had some backers that she was talking to, and she was starting a new network, and they were talking to all sorts of people. She mentioned Tim Pool. She mentioned a whole bunch of creators that you guys know and I'm sure love. But it was people all over the political aisle. She said they wanted to create a free speech network. I said to her, listen, I am extremely
Dave, you didn't just give an example of people all over the political aisle. You listed yourself and Tim Pool. You guys are like real close politically. You're both libertarians or classic liberals who claim they used to be progressive. Who else, Dave? Who else? Who was on a different part of the political spectrum from you?
busy, but I would consider doing something for you as long as I 100% control it. You have no control over the content whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for a ridiculous amount of money because I don't have time, and we'll see if we can come up with something.
To your defense, I'm not going to attribute you. Like, let's say you didn't know that, and I'm not trying to say that you were able to know that it was Russian money.
Dave, if it's from all over the political spectrum, what liberal or progressive people did they give money to? Or did they give money to people who they knew already backed the narratives that were important to them? Because I'm going to tell you right now which one I think it is. Side note, apologize for the dip in quality of audio there. I've just found out there may have been some slight audio errors there. I'll try and fix it in post.
Yeah. But what I do think is interesting is that this anti-woke movement that just says woke a lot and calls it an ideology, it is so easy to be ideologically aligned that Russian propagandists are like, yes, these are our people. This is how we're going to get the American people on board. That's more of like the issue. It's not really your fault. It's more so that like your whole ideology is like wokeness is bad.
What show did I do for Russia?
What
show did I do for Russia?
No, I'm not saying you did a show for Russia. I'm saying Russia saw you as a stooge who could easily say the talking points that benefited them.
But do you understand? They gave me no talking points. I did a show. It was a call-in show.
But here's what we're missing, Dave, right? I'm not saying Russia gave you a script to say. I'm saying Russia's like, yes, this is our guy. If we fund him more and we give him more influence, he's going to do it for us without even getting a script. Isn't that
Dave, this is not a hard concept. Dave, why do you think you were chosen? Dave, come on, man. Come on. Come on. Relax, Ruben. He's just an idiot.
Embarrassing?
Oh no,
You
well,
did
it's
it
a
without even getting instruction from them.
It's a quite literal fantastical adventure that you just went on there.
It wasn't. Actually, it's basic logic. Dave, why do you think these people were chosen? Because they already conform to the narrative that Russia benefited from. That's why you were picked. Holy shit, Dave. I mean, to be fair on this one, Dave might actually just be obfuscating the point. Dave, on this one, might be playing stupid. Because he actually does benefit more in this specific instance that people think he is obtuse rather than a traitor to the United States of America and a full-on out grifter.
Literally,
what's the adventure?
Literally, I did a call-in show.
Why would Russia choose you and Tim Pool? Wait, why would Russia choose you and Tim Pool?
Hold on, you don't even know what I did. You don't even know what the Tenet show that I did, do you? Did you ever watch it? Do you know the name of it? Do you know anything that I did? So you don't. So you quite literally have no idea what you're talking about.
They just gave you money because they're altruistic?
No, buddy.
They're just like, we're thinking of giving it to Dave.
No, because well, first off, so just to be clear, you have literally no idea what you're talking about. You don't know the name of the show.
Dave, I sincerely doubt that your show, be it a call-in show or whatever, did not somehow had narratives other than what your other shows have.
Oh, you don't know the name of the show that I did. You don't know the name of the show that I did for them or what I did.
I don't think I need to know the specifics on a podcaster who takes Russian money.
Oh my God, no, man.
But Dave is trying to respond to you.
Yeah.
So like, let's hear his side of the story.
Do you know? Not knowing anything. I know he took Russian money.
But he's also, we also like haven't heard his entire feeling.
I literally did a call-in show at first, so my audience just called me and asked questions. Sometimes we talked about.
And did you have a different narrative that you sold them, Dave? Or did you sell them the narrative you normally sell?
Basketball, we talked about video games. It had literally nothing to do with foreign policy. I don't think we did one show on Russia.
But that money still overall supports you and builds out your base. And by the way, I doubt he didn't talk about politics on his call-in show as a political streamer. That sounds insane. It's not like Dave Rubin is known for gaming.
Or anything else. And then we shifted the show. That was kind of boring to me. So I was like, my team.
Oh, no shit. Talking about basketball and video games was boring to you?
5 minutes before we go live, we'll pick viral videos. You know, woman throws hamburger at somebody at Wendy's, and I'll respond to it. That's what we did. And then.
And in that response, did you never, ever employ the same logic and reasoning that you use to defend capitalism, Dave? Or is it that, you know, this money that you used to make a silly show was still money being funneled into your political sphere? It still supports you and your messaging.
Guess what happened after about 6 months of that? Because I controlled the entire thing. I didn't even know what the clips were before I was doing them. The deal was off. They didn't want to do it anymore because I did not do anything. Yeah.
Wait, but Dave, that's a terrible thing to point out for your argument. Because that makes it seem like they saw you just making fun of a lady getting a hamburger thrown at her, and they were like, yeah, this Dave Rubin money's not going where we thought it would go. But Dave, that would back up. If they stopped paying you for making silly content, that would back up the idea that they wanted to pay you to push your political narrative. Dave, you're outing your own arguments.
Yeah. And also notice I'm not under federal indictment. I'm not sitting here with a...
Yes, because the federal indictment determined that people like you were genuinely misled into believing it was this French guy. That's why the only people who are currently viewed as criminal in the act are currently on the run.
A lawyer or anything else. And as a matter of fact, Merrick Garland, who I'm no friend of, basically said that the influencers had nothing to do with this. And if you read the just a second, and if you read the indictment, I'm the one that got on the Zoom call with the backer to ask more questions about it and everything else. Yeah.
Great. So, Dave, I'm not saying you were saying Russia's such a great country, everyone should love Vladimir Putin. And I get that your show might not even been political in nature.
I know. So you didn't, just to be clear, you didn't know the show. You didn't know the show or what I do.
But the fact that they are building the social capital of the Rubin Report being larger in infrastructure is because...
It wasn't the Rubin Report. It wasn't even the Rubin Report.
You as an entity, Dave, they want to legitimize you more in the eyes of the viewers that they are trying to capture. That is the point of why Russia paid you specifically. They don't do it out of the kindness of their heart. They didn't do it because they're like, Dave seems like a
seriously, Dave, why else do you think that Russia did it? Like, have you thought about it at all?
Good guy. They did it because Dave's politics is advocating for cheerleading for Donald Trump policies, regardless of any criticism. That is the point.
Where is the case?
What do you mean, where's the case?
Where's the case? Where's the case right now? Why am I even able to talk about it? Why don't I have a lawyer sitting here? Where's the case?
I'm not saying what you did was
because you weren't indicted. We've already gone over this.
illegal in nature. I'm just saying that.
Well, hold on. There was a federal indictment. Wouldn't I be a little afraid to be talking about it right now?
I'm not.
Except that they already determined that you were not in the loop of the parts that were actually criminal. This is not hard, Dave. Of course, he is. In fairness to Dave, he's probably just trying to obfuscate.
Dave, I'm not claiming.
Are they?
I started this conversation.
Is anyone in jail because
saying
of this?
You might not even have known about the Russian money. I'm not trying to cast that blame on you. I'm just saying it's interesting that your show is so ideologically aligned with what Russia wants for the United States that they are going to give you money to continue to do it. That is the point.
What is it that I do for Russia?
You suck Donald Trump's dick without criticizing any bad thing that he does.
All right, yeah, we got to pause. Mason, you got to go.
Sorry.
Dave got pretty cooked there. Just a lot of obfuscation from his part, which makes sense, though, because, like, the interesting thing is that this is actually one of the topics where there is a believable incentive for him to play stupid. So, you know, either he's stupid about it, or he's literally, this would be the moment where he would play into being stupid.
Hi.
Hello.
I actually will agree with you that establishment Democrats have done a really terrible job of ensuring that their policies reflect what the people actually want. Most people want universal health care.
Yeah.
Most people want free higher education so that they can actually get a job and move up in life.
I don't know that it's most people, but a certain set of people
will
do.
say that they would love for the rich to be
I hope Jubilee comes in with a fact check right about
taxed at the same rate that they used to be, closer towards the 90%, rather than
you want to tax the rich?
I don't know if everyone necessarily believes in the 90% one. I don't necessarily know if that is the sweet spot, but also because we have a progressive tax system, taxing someone at 90% is actually not as insane as it sounds. I'm not here to explain how taxes work entirely to you in this moment.
Rather than taxing the rest of the population that can barely pay their rent.
Yeah.
And then they're watching shows like yours, and they're hearing ideology more so than factual evidence. And they're saying, you know what? Yeah, the Democrats, establishment Democrats, haven't been doing much that they said that they were going to do. So let me listen to this guy.
This chick's got a good argument. Is chick offensive? I don't know. I'm lost and old. But this woman has a good argument. I didn't even think of this angle on it. This is a good point.
And everything you give is emotion and ideology. So yeah, sometimes people who don't have nearly as much critical thinking as they probably should are going to move to.
Dave, just because you talk like you're on a tranquilizer does not mean that you're not making emotional appeals. You made numerous emotional appeals in the first half, in the first video that we recorded. Numerous emotional appeals.
To the right. Yeah. But honestly, the base that's actually growing are the progressive base. Young voters are becoming much more progressive than they ever were. Yeah. Why? Because again, most people want the universal
I agree with
healthcare.
that a lot of young people are very confused about what America is and what freedom is. Oh, they're confused about what they want? Yeah, they are.
Dave, you talk like someone who is confused by shoelaces.
So you want, I mean, we could just do a few of what you just said. So how much money would you like to take from anyone to get whatever policy?
That's not how you measure that. That's not how you measure that, Dave. That's like setting a budget without taking in any information to form a budget.
Policy you want. What is the number? How much money should anyone have that you want to take to get whatever it is that you want done? Please give me a number.
It's interesting that you're using
Dave, you can't measure it that way because it's so relative to the economy.
The rhetoric of taking when we're literally talking about a state, a society that functions solely through making sure that most people have their basic needs met.
So
unfortunately,
how much?
Establishment Democrats have moved.
What Dave is doing literally right now is emotional. This is an emotional appeal to make you feel pain when you think about money. He wants you to feel like someone is taking something from you. But that's not really how you would measure this, and that's not really how you would form an argument. It's hilarious that Dave doesn't actually understand what it means to give emotion or to make emotional arguments. He thinks that making an emotional argument is when you make an argument, but you're clearly very emotional about it. No, Dave. An emotional argument is about how you're trying to make the other person feel.
So towards the corporatist side that they have forgotten what the people actually want.
So how much of Elon,
that's where
so
we
how
agree.
much of
Where
Elon
we
Musk?
disagree
All right, so let's use Elon
is your
Musk, for
rhetoric
example.
around I'm going to take as much money as I can from the rich.
It is taking.
It's not
No, it
no,
is. Of
it's
course it is.
fairness.
What do you mean? If you don't give, if they.
I don't like the term fairness. What it is its functionality. Has to be taxes on these people. And corporations shouldn't be allowed to get as big as governments. Literally, the system that they do, the way they function, is not even good for capitalism. Capitalism eats itself. The fact that Amazon owns so much of its own infrastructure makes it essentially a de facto government. As corporations build their own infrastructure, they are actively taking soft power from the government. You do not want corporations who have no accountability without government to do that. There should be at least enough taxes to keep corporations within a range, because there's no good economic or societal reason to allow corporations to become so big that they can swallow all the companies around them.
They say we're going to take it, and you don't give it, they're going to put you in jail, right? So it is taking. If
You're
it
saying
is so benevolent,
taxes, if you don't pay your taxes, you're going to jail.
If it is so benevolent to do these things, then why don't more people do it?
No, it's just
because there has to be enforcement on some level, Dave. Dave, during the Articles of Confederation, the government we had before we came up with the Constitution, look it up. History is fascinating, people. Get yourself some education. They actively already did the libertarian model. The model where taxes were optional, and the only thing the government did was maintain the military. And several things happened, which was all the states came up with their own money, and then they tariffed the shit out of each other, the states that is, and then, once that was terrible for the economy, they then had to deal with the fact that because taxes were optional, no states were paying taxes or were paying minimal taxes to the federal government. And then the federal government had to disband the military. And then everyone was like, hold on, this thing we're doing did not work. And then they wrote the Constitution, and we got a better, more functional government.
just part of being a person living in a country.
So
Every country has taxes.
So how much of Elon Musk's money would you like to take from him to do what?
I would actually like for billionaires and the rich in general to pay the same amount that they were paying back in the 1950s.
Okay, so that's a rather radical position if you want.
In the 1950s?
The 1950s was one of the highest rates of economic success in the United States, just so you know.
Yeah.
Mostly it was Republicans that were in
So you
office.
want to give that money?
Also, it was Republicans who put those taxes on them. That's so funny. And it's true. Oh, the party shift didn't happen. It happened.
Money to the system and the government, which you don't seem to like very much, right? You're talking about corporate Democrats, and you don't like the Republicans, but your solution seems to be, I will take more money and...
She doesn't like the people who are corrupting the system. She didn't say she didn't like the system.
Put it into the system to do what I want. What I would prefer to do
what
is
most
that...
people want.
What I would prefer to do is that you have a job?
Of course.
Yeah, okay, so I would like you to keep more of your money. I want everyone, again, in this room to keep more of their money. You know what happens when rich people have more...
Why don't you want them to be paid more? If you want everyone to have more money or more of their own money, why don't you want to increase the minimum wage? Why don't you want them to be paid more? Huh, Dave? Do you think about that one? Because, once again, the purpose of money is to circulate.
More of their money, they hire more people, they invest in more things.
That is so untrue. It is crazy. And that's what I'm saying. People like you will spit out this rhetoric, and people who are living paycheck to paycheck and don't have nearly as much critical thinking.
We gotta pause there. We're out of time. We're out of time.
Yeah. My final surrounded claim is that the modern left cares more about ideology than reality.
All right. If you would like to debate this prompt, get to the chair in 3.
That prompt is almost definitely a loosely coded reference to trans stuff. I almost guarantee that's where this is going to go. Because I get the feeling that Dave is secretly one of those people who thinks it should just be LGB.
3, 2, 1.
How's it going, Dave?
All right.
All right. Let's talk about reality.
Okay.
Let's talk about 3 things that exist in reality. Climate change, Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, and vaccines out of COVID are effective and safe. The right does not accept any of those things.
Yeah.
Does Donald Trump accept the 2020 election results? And do Republicans broadly accept the 2020 election results still to this day?
I think there's a lot of questions about the 2020 election.
Do they? But does Donald Trump accept
In other words, Dave, you don't agree about reality.
it?
Does Donald Trump? I think he thinks something went awry.
So he does not accept it. Now, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I
Really?
know.
Interesting.
No, yeah, that's the truth. I know that he was not the president by the end of that, but I do know that in all the chaos of COVID and mail-in ballots and everything else, that somehow magically Joe Biden got something like 20 million.
Dave Rubin is actively promoting conspiracy theories about the 2020 election. Fan-fucking-tastic.
More votes than Barack Obama. That's a little bit curious.
Yeah, voter turnout was incredibly high that election because voting was made easier.
Oh, because voting was. Well, you might think it have something to do if you are doing mail-in ballots. There might be a little more access to fraudulent abilities.
You might think that, but you have to actually provide evidence to demonstrate that, right?
I'm just skeptical. I'm just skeptical of it.
So, okay.
I don't know. I'm skeptical of it.
Okay, so if just
I would venture to say that a little skepticism is probably a good thing. Also, the COVID vaccines didn't.
Except, Dave, you're skeptical about the wrong things.
Work. I mean, that's a fact.
That is not a fact. That isn't.
If you got a COVID vaccine, could you get COVID?
If
you got a COVID, yes. Oh, you could.
The claim was never
transmit it.
Yes,
Joe
the claim
Biden,
was never that transmission was at 0%.
Joe
That's not how vaccines work.
Joe Biden. Hold on. Joe Biden. If you get the COVID vaccine, you will not get nor transmit COVID.
Okay,
that is what Joe Biden said.
But that's not the
Anthony
claim.
Fauci.
But that's not what the medical information said. The medical information told us up front that the live vaccines were 74% effective, meaning they were always a little under 3/4 effective. The live vaccines. And the mRNA vaccines came with literal paperwork that told you, and to be fair, if you didn't get your paperwork, know that you could have asked for it, but they're not required to just give it to you. Every shot's going to come with some level of paperwork when they ship it to you. The point is that we were told from the beginning, the medical information that came out, if you were smart enough to look at actual medical information, was that the mRNA vaccines were 94% effective, meaning that there was always going to be a roughly around 6% failure rate. We were given these numbers up front. It's not the industry's fault necessarily if you didn't know that, but you can't take that data and then use it to create these claims.
She said that repeatedly.
That's not what the right claims about the COVID vaccine. Like, similar to yourself,
the right?
You said yes. We're talking about whether or not the right or the left accepts reality, correct? So the right claims that the COVID vaccine is unsafe and ineffective. Yeah. That's not true.
That is true.
No, that is true. Of the people who died from COVID, are the vast majority of them unvaccinated or vaccinated?
Hold on. Do you know
unvaccinated?
I know a young guy who's in his early 20s who.
Now Dave is going to make an anecdotal example, and he's also going to say something, because I've seen a clip of this part, really fucking stupid.
Never had any health. Wait. Who had never had any health problems. Young, healthy guy in his early 20s who had to get the COVID vaccine to go to college, and he now has myocarditis.
Okay.
Does that?
What do you mean he now has myocarditis? Because here's the facts. The type of myocarditis that you would get from a vaccine is temporary. Myocarditis is not a chronic condition. Also, COVID itself also causes myocarditis. In fact, it causes it at a higher rate than the vaccines.
Does that interest you at all? Does that interest you?
He
had no reason. He had no reason to get a vaccine that would stop him. It did not stop him from getting COVID, and he could still transmit COVID.
We don't use anecdotes in science. This is let's pull it back to reality, right? Yeah. This is why science is so important. This is why the left actually likes science, because we understand that anecdotes aren't a good tool to use when assessing scientific research.
So you think the government should have been allowed to force people to get a vaccine?
Okay,
that
so now
was rushed.
We're pivoting.
That was rushed.
It's a wild pivot, actually. It is a wild pivot. It is a pivot away from the arguments that this young man is making. That is not the argument that he's making. The argument he's making is about the disagreement. And technically, Dave is just proving that the disagreement exists.
Through by Operation Warp Speed, which was Donald Trump, a guy you don't seem to like very much.
Right.
You can't hate on the vaccine and then also give Trump credit for that. Stop it.
Yeah, sure, but we're pivoting.
Well, yeah, sure.
We're sure. I'm okay with Operation Warp Speed. I can.
So the guy that you seem to be quite deranged about, Donald Trump, pushes through a vaccine very.
It's so bad faith to say that to your debate opponent. It's so bad faith to say that he's deranged for criticizing Donald Trump. Jesus Christ.
Fast, and you're
right,
okay
because
with
I
that.
want to ensure that people are healthy. But
even though the vaccine
what I don't like is the fact that
yeah.
Republicans and especially like right-wing influencers downplayed the efficacy of vaccines and claimed that they were unsafe or ineffective.
But they were ineffective.
No, they weren't.
Right, so we have a fundamental difference on that.
If it reduces,
young healthy people had no reason.
If it reduces the rate of transmission, that is literally what a vaccine is intended to do.
We were sold. The bill of goods that they sold us was that you would not get nor transmit COVID. That is the...
No, we were always told the effective rates. And none of them were 100%.
President of the United States words as he was forcing people to get that vaccine.
If he said that, then I would agree that his assessment of it was
well,
false.
He's the president of the United States.
You should.
Do you think?
Wait,
are you saying?
Speaking of presidents of the United States,
saying we should have been forced
how about
into...
Donald Trump in suggesting that people should drink bleach or do hydroxychloroquine? He's the president of the United States. Do you think that was at all?
All right, the bleach thing is a completely made up farce. The bleach. He didn't. Yes, he told people to inject bleach. Have you seen the whole quote? You think he told people to inject bleach?
He
suggested
that things like hydroxychloroquine were effective at means at preventing COVID. That's not the case.
There were all sorts of other treatments. There were monoclonal treatments.
Trump promoted hydrochloroquine as a COVID treatment, contrary to the evolving medical evidence, and he publicly speculated about using disinfectant by injection inside the body. Comments doctors called dangerous and baseless. However, he did not literally instruct Americans to inject bleach. That line is a shorthand that exaggerated his exact words, even though his remarks clearly invited that interpretation and had to be walked back. Congratulations, Dave. You won a technicality, and you're still wrong.
Well, did you use HCQ? There were all sorts of things that were...
People used other things, but that doesn't mean that that the vaccine wasn't the most safe and effective means.
Well, there used to be something called herd immunity. There used to be that young...
So, just so everyone knows, the way you do herd immunity is you get everybody sick, and the people who die just die. For herd immunity to work, it means everyone has to have either survived or been killed by the disease. No one who's pro-herd immunity ever wants to talk about that.
Young people would actually go outside and get sun and run around and do exercise and not...
Literally has nothing to do with herd immunity.
The issue...
Be sitting inside...
Also, if you're running around with myocarditis, that's how you get a heart attack.
Playing video games all day and taking takeout food and getting fatter and everything else. Like, you might want to encourage people to be healthy rather than take a...
When Michelle Obama did it, you called her communist.
Largely experimental vaccine that turned out not to be a vaccine.
It is a vaccine, Dave. That's a wild claim that you're never going to back up.
First of all, I don't know what you mean by it, not a vaccine. It's clearly a vaccine.
It wasn't a vaccine.
It doesn't mean just because something is a vaccine doesn't mean it's 0% transmissibility.
Okay, we got pause there. You've been voted out.
Okay.
Ooh, smooth.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Miriam.
Nice to meet you.
So, I would just like to get into the fact that I think it's actually...
I'm going to turn up the speed and see if I can tolerate it.
Actually conservatives and Republicans who don't live in reality, because in reality, Trump is actually making it worse for people who claim they want affordability. Nothing in the big, beautiful bill actually helps poor Americans. It actually increased their taxes and gave tax breaks to corporations and the ultra wealthy. So if we want to talk about who's not living in reality, I think it's the people who are poor but support Trump because they think that he likes them.
Well, again, I think one of the consistent themes here is that we just have a fundamental difference on what makes an economy work. And what I think makes an economy work. So what I think makes an economy work is lower taxes for everybody.
So did he lower taxes for everybody, or did he actually increase taxes for the poor?
He didn't increase taxes for the poor.
You can actually go look at it.
All right, fact check. Under Trump's current tax regime and the big beautiful bill, most poor households do not face a major explicit income tax hike. and some get small breaks like no tax on tips or overtime. Although, to be fair, that statement right there is misleading on the no tax or tips on overtime, which, by the way, is it's literally just like you get some of that money back. It's not no tax. And it's one of those things where it's literally a tax write-off, so you're supposed to get, so instead of not paying tax on the tips, you just get some of the money you were paid on tips back. It's not the same thing. I forget how the overtime one was fucking you over, but it's also not a straight no tax on overtime. But independent analysis find the largest lasting cuts go to the upper middle and high income households, while low income American gets minimal relief and may pay more overall once expiring provisions, tariffs, and lost credits are included. I used to be able to write off some things for my day job that I can no longer write off. Thanks, Trump. That's real.
If you are poor, after the Big Beautiful Act, you're actually paying more taxes.
What do you mean by poor? What qualifies as poor?
You make under a certain amount.
Yeah, well, if you make under something like $50,000, you basically pay no taxes anyway. But if the argument, you guys seem to keep coming around to the argument that if you could just take more from a certain set of people, that we could solve all.
I'm sorry. Did he say if you pay under $50,000? Because that's not true. I've always paid taxes, and I've never even made $50,000 a year. Dave, what the fuck? Actually, this is a little fast. Let's just take it down a little bit.
I'm not even arguing that right now. I'm saying that Trump is not helping people at all. He's not giving tax breaks to them. He's giving tax breaks to the ultra wealthy when he should be giving tax breaks to, you said, everybody.
So you like tax breaks. So you like tax breaks.
Well, no, I'm saying if you want to be like logically consistent, then you would give tax breaks to everybody, but he's not doing that. He's only doing that with...
The poorest people pay virtually no tax. The poorest people pay virtually no tax. And again, the one...
Here in the edit, I couldn't help but notice that Dave Rubin actually just opened up an inconsistency in his own economic beliefs. Dave Rubin simultaneously believes that we can help the poor by taxing them less, while at the same time holding the belief that we don't tax them. Do you see how that doesn't make sense? If removing taxes from poor people would raise them out of poverty, then by his logic, that would currently be happening. Except for the fact that he's wrong on both fronts, that people who make under $50,000 a year, which is lower middle class, by the way, still pay taxes. And taking away taxes from people doesn't automatically lift them out of poverty if they have, like, kids. Because, like, that's normally how most poor people get their money back, is because they have those types of write-offs. Now, to be fair, if you're literally making no money, you don't have to pay taxes on no money, but you're also barely getting by. And I don't know how you're surviving when you pay that little taxes.
1% pay 47%. So what percentage would you find...
A number we've already been told by Jubilee is wrong.
Acceptable. I really mean that. I seem to not be able to get an answer on that.
I don't want to get into the actual specifics.
Well, of course you don't.
No, because I'm here to actually say that...
But okay, so Elon Musk, who's sending people to Mars...
I think this is not relevant, though. Okay, this is not relevant to your prompts.
No, because human flourishing is important. And when you take someone like Elon Musk...
Human flourishing, yes, is important. Who works for Elon Musk?
144,000 people.
Okay, so should those people also be getting tax breaks?
Of course.
So why aren't they under his policy?
But what are you talking about?
But they're not.
But they are.
Actually, at least some of those people probably are making enough money to get those higher income tax breaks. They don't make as much money as Elon, of course. This, of course, also just leaves out how many corporations and how many billionaires are able to get their taxes dramatically lowered based on things that they've done.
But they're not.
How many people do you think? How many people do you think Elon Musk pays that are making less than $50,000? I'm going to venture to say it's virtually nobody.
I don't know why Dave Rubin thinks people who make less than $50,000 a year don't pay taxes. Is that what he thinks poor is? Jesus, I wish I made $50,000 a year.
Virtually nobody at his companies. That basically everybody's making over 50. That means those people, almost everybody, got a tax break or a tax rebate under Donald Trump. But even
I implore everyone to look that up because if you actually look it up,
I implore them as well. I implore them as well.
You've been voted out. You've been voted out.
Because.
Oh dear.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you? Love the hair. Love the hair.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
This woman's cool. She was. I saw her debating with. She was co-debating with Jovan Bradley, who I love.
Yeah. So I kind of just want to echo what everyone else has been saying. I do agree that the Republican Party, I feel like, has been much more focus on ideology than reality. And specifically, Trump made several campaign promises to his voters that he hasn't come through on, and yet we continue to hear you guys bootlick him all the time. And it's very frustrating to me that you're not
the topic is the modern left cares more about ideology.
Yeah, and I disagree with the claim. I think that the modern right cares more about ideology. I mean,
let's
look at some of the things that Trump ran on, right? He ran on an America First campaign, and then he bombs Venezuela. Then he doesn't end the war in Israel, even though he promised he was going to do that. He starts a conflict.
The war is over. The war's over.
No, it's
what do you mean?
Very much.
There's a ceasefire. There's not one Israeli in Gaza.
Ceasefires are not peace. Ceasefires aren't even treaties. Ceasefires are a shaky peace that could disappear at any time.
Hostages are home. There's a reconstruction.
That is absolutely not true. That is fundamentally false.
Wait, you're saying there are hostages in Gaza right now, and the war is continuing?
The conflict has continued. Yes, there have continued to be bombs. And
they're bombing Gaza right now. That's what you're telling me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not true.
I mean, I know you get your news from Grok, but this is a fact.
Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire framework, but Israeli strikes and military operations in Gaza have continued amid disputes over Hamas disarmament and implementation of the deal. Israeli officials say further withdrawal depends on Hamas disarming, while critics argue continued strikes undermine the ceasefire. The hostage issue was central to the deal, but by January of 2026, Israel said all remaining Israeli hostages and bodies have been returned. Dave, you're getting fucked, bro. You're wrong on so much. Fact checks are destroying you, Dave.
Fact that is continuing to happen. So he promises to be America first, right? He doesn't end the war in Israel. He starts a war in Iran while simultaneously defunding the VA, right? So he's sending people to go fight an unnecessary war while defunding the organization and the institution that helps those people. That's not America first at all. He promised he was going to drain the swamp, and then he puts Kash Patel in, who's drunk at work. Then he puts Pam Bondi in, who's numpty, right? She ain't doing shit. Then he puts Kristi Noem and her big booby boyfriend in, right? He didn't drain the swamp at all. He dumped raw sewage in the swamp. He hasn't come through on any of his promises, and you continue to defend him. You are not accepting the reality that Trump failed his voters.
The topic here is the modern left cares more about...
But Dave, you're not addressing her counter-argument, which is that they believe that, in fact, it is the right who is out of touch with reality. Because of people like you, actually.
Ideology than reality.
Yes, you're giving the modern right cares more about ideology than reality.
But that's not what the topic is. If you want to talk about what my claim was, it's that the modern left.
I am referencing your claim. You just don't want to interact with this because you know you're going to lose. You know all these things. You don't want to say that Pam Bondi was a good...
I'll tell you what my claim is. The modern left, which cares more about trans ideology, which cares more about racial ideology.
No, you're trying to focus on your definition of progressivism.
I'm going on what's on the paper.
You're focusing on your definition of progressivism because you don't want to admit that Trump has failed his voters. Trump has failed his voters. He has not come through on his promises.
I just disagree, but that's not what the topic is.
He said he was going to be tough on crime, especially immigrants, but he...
I don't agree because it's not the topic, but it's not the topic, so I'm not gonna have a counter argument for you because it's not the topic, and I don't see how it relates to the topic, even though it's basically even though it is technically a legitimate response to my topic, because obviously, if my party's out of touch with reality, then that says that your party's more in touch with reality, but I'm not going to deal with that argument because I don't like the implications. I'm Dave Rubin.
Pardons the president of Honduras, who was literally in jail for smuggling 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. He has not come through with his promises.
I'm confused.
And
so you want
the
government to be tougher on crime? Is that what you're telling me?
But that's what he promised his voters.
Dave, your pivots are fucking trash, bro. It's like I'm watching you in a fight, and the guy's coming at you, and you pull out a knife, and the guy just slaps the knife out of your hand, and then slaps you in the face as his hand comes back the other way. Jesus, Dave.
You're a lefty, and you want the government.
I'm just looking at reality. The reality is Trump made a promise that he did not keep.
Yeah.
His actions do not align with what he ran on.
I actually wish Donald Trump was being harder on crime.
Exactly.
And I actually
but the fact that you defended him for the last 3 hours proves that you're not in touch with the reality of the situation.
No, I wish he was doing more as it came to deportations. You can only do so many things at once. You don't get everything that you want all the time.
You just defended Trump. You just defended Trump's deportation policy.
No.
So you wish he was doing more, or you're defending it. What is it?
No. I like the policy. I wish he was doing more.
Okay,
I wish he was doing more.
The fact that you are continuing to support a president who has not come through on his party promises is delusions.
No, it's not delusions.
It is delusions.
Donald Trump, as I said at the beginning,
you sat here and defended him for so long.
If Donald Trump did nothing else other than close the borders, he has already done more than enough for the country.
That's whoa. You think in 4 years a president's only responsibility is to close the borders? He's supposed to be running the free world. He's supposed to be running the entire country. That's all you care about is the border?
If you have a slow...
What about healthcare? What about the national debt? He's increased the national debt by $2.5 trillion. You don't about that?
If you have a slow, soft invasion of your country.
Trump's first term alone added about $7.8 trillion to the gross national debt, according to nonpartisan budget analysis. That is far more than $2.5 trillion. In his current term, watchdogs estimate the debt has risen by roughly $2.8 trillion so far. So he's at over $10 trillion, or from administrations he was running.
Country happening, then at the very least you can close the borders and start kicking out the people who are not supposed to be here.
Okay, but you just
right?
said
So
if
Donald,
the only thing that Trump did is close the borders, that would be an effective presidency to you?
If the only thing he did, no, I want him to do more. And
okay,
he
so
is
then
doing
why
more.
would you say that him closing the borders would be an effective presidency? The end, full stop.
If I was Donald Trump, because presidents have to do a lot of different things at once. You don't.
Okay,
get
but you just
exactly
said
what
if
you
he
want.
did one singular thing, that's a good.
Dave is too dumb to understand. Oh my god, wait, I have to screen capture this fucking face. Look at him. Look at him. He looks like a sad monkey. A haircut's not helping that. Is not helping that look.
Good president to you?
If
really?
Relative to where we were with Joe Biden.
That sounds like a lame duck president to me. If the only thing he can accomplish in 4 years is one thing.
You want to have like a silly semantic argument. I think you
understand. It's not a silly semantic argument. I think you
understand.
I
think you understand the point that I'm making. That in and of itself, closing the border is by far the most important thing that had to happen.
Absolutely.
How? In what way will that noticeably change our economy? Oh, what's that? It will be negative changes? Because it shrinks our markets and lowers our labor force? Oh, right.
So you don't care
we
that
had an invasion into this country. 16 to 20 million people, on top of the fact that we probably had at least 12 million illegals here in the first place.
So you don't care that he just cut $1 trillion from Medicaid. You don't care that he defunded the EPA. You don't care that he defunded the VA.
I don't care that he defunded the EPA, but
Dave, do you want the Cuyahoga River to be on fire again? Is that what you want, Dave? For the Cuyahoga River to catch on fire again?
That's besides the point.
None of those things. You don't care. It's just as long as he does immigration, you're happy.
No,
that's delusional. You're not accepting the reality of the issues in this country.
No, it's interesting. You guys all seem to hate the government and hate Donald Trump, but you love government programs. I don't understand. That seems to be the disconnect.
To be on the left is not to hate the government. It is to hate the way what the government is used for. We have things we believe the government should be used for. We believe it should be used to dismantle hierarchy and increase overall benefit to its citizens. I don't know what the fuck you want the government to do.
With progressives as a general
programs
rule.
when they are effective in supporting the needs of the United States citizens.
Might I offer that most of you guys who are in your 20s, you don't really understand how the world works.
We got to pause here. We've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seats.
Good move. How you doing?
Good. So your fundamental claim is that the left is more in touch with ideology than reality, right?
Yeah.
Make America Great Again is an ideological claim, that they are trying to make America great again. That is fundamentally incongruous with reality, because Donald Trump is not making America great. He's attacking the fundamental fabric that makes America America. For example, birthright citizenship. One of the things that distinguishes us from other countries in the Western world, in first world countries, is that we have jus soli. If someone is born here, they're an American. If someone believes in the ideals of America, they're an American.
No, wait. But that's just not true. If someone believes in the ideals of America, they're American. So someone in Canada believes in the ideals of America, they're American.
To quote the great conservative thinker Ronald Reagan, there are millions of unknowing Americans.
But they have to become Americans.
The conservative ideology of the 1980s actually invited people into America that were going to work hard and build a better life. Not people who tried to destroy America.
You would agree that you have to come
by removing those people.
Well, first off,
Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to over 3 million illegal immigrants, or undocumented, as we call them. So yes, Ronald Reagan's belief on immigrants is very different than Trump.
You would agree that they have to come legally?
I think that we need to reform our legal process so that people can come here legally effectively. Trump has actually shut down legal immigration more than he shut down illegal immigration.
Well, no, that's not true. Because the border is completely closed. There are people that are waiting in line to get into the country.
So that's not true. Trump has sent back about 80,000 people over the course of the second administration. Biden sent away 956,000. When it comes to border crossings, Biden stopped much more border crossings than Trump did. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying, objectively speaking, on a per year basis, Biden stopped more border crossings than Trump did.
Is anyone coming through the border right now?
Yes.
According to DHS-based figures, Biden's last full year saw about 778,000 deportations. While since Trump's second term began, DHS estimates deportations over 605,000 and claimed that another 1.9 million have self-deported for a total of more than 2.5 million departures. That being said, it's very hard to estimate total number of self-deported.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, what numbers are coming through? I mean, the border.
I don't know the exact number. We don't actually track that. We only track border crossings or stops.
The borders are complete.
Actually, technically, he's correct. It's not possible to track illegal immigrations. We don't track that. What we actually track are encounter rates. And then those encounter rates are measured as we caught them, we decided whether or not they were here for a good reason, or we sent them back. Other type of encounter is a got away, as in we encountered them, but they fled and we were unable to detain them. These are the only numbers we have to measure crossings. It has to be assumed that these are incomplete numbers. So when he says that it is 0, that is functionally ridiculous, or at least highly improbable.
Completely closed, and they were wide open under Biden. But the Reagan comment that you just made is that ideologically, it's a beautiful thing about this country, which is interesting, which is that, yes, anyone can become an American, but you don't become an American by believing in American ideals. You become an American.
Except, here's the interesting thing. Literally, when you ask a ton of Republicans what they don't like about illegal immigrants, they will say that they don't have American values. Dave is actively arguing in the opposite direction right now.
By having a set of beliefs and then applying to become a citizen and doing it lawfully and legally. And that is completely not what we have had for the 4 years before Donald Trump.
So to become an American, either you're born here or you immigrate here and then you get legal residence and eventually from there you become a citizen. If that's the case, and that's what we're respecting, why is Stephen Miller ordering 3,500 deportations a day, and then to do that,
but
the
of
Trump
people who are
administration,
here illegally?
No, because
so
Trump tried to remove temporary protected status of over 500,000 people who are here legally, so that they could reach the 3,500 mark. If someone is changing the law to make someone...
Trump's administration has moved to revoke legal status for roughly 500,000 CHNV parole migrants, putting many previously lawful residents at risk of removal. Officials reportedly pushed ICE towards mass arrest goals of 3,000 per day, but actual arrests/removals have generally fallen below that. And actually, this is an authoritarian issue. When all you care about is hitting this quota, you're effectively creating a totalitarian situation where instead of going based on who shouldn't be here, we are going on, well, we need to decide that some of these people shouldn't, even if they have a valid claim, because we gotta hit these numbers, boys.
Wait. Legal status illegal?
Hold on. Are you
That's
saying
not coming after people who came here illegally?
You're saying we're deporting legal
We're actually deporting
American
US citizens. We deported a 4-year-old kid with lung cancer. We deported a 10-year-old
You're talking
kid
about because the
with
father,
brain cancer.
if you're talking about
they
because the
deported
father
a 10-year-old kid with brain cancer.
But you're talking about because the
4-year-old
father
kid.
was illegal and they didn't want to break up the family,
Was
correct?
the kid an American citizen or not?
By the law of the United States, if the kid was born here by birthright citizenship, then he was. But are you saying
Why are you
that
deporting in America?
It is normal that we would keep the parent there to care for the child. That's normally what we do. Because we're not fucking monsters.
Citizen.
Because they were deporting the father,
Why
so
are
they
you
made
deporting?
the choice.
The reality is that the kid is an American citizen. Why are you deporting an American citizen? Unless you are ignoring the material reality.
You want to separate the father
Why would you deport his father?
from the child?
No, but if they're receiving medical treatment, life-saving medication in a first world country, granted one of the worst healthcare situations in a first world country, I think it'd be
I just want to make sure we're talking
Sweden.
about the same case. So in this specific case, you grant that the father was illegal, right?
We're talking about multiple cases. There's a 4-year-old kid with lung cancer, a 10-year-old kid with brain
cancer. The father
cancer.
was illegal, correct?
From my understanding, one of the parents was not documented.
Right. So they didn't want to break up the family. I don't think you would want to do that, and I wouldn't
if
want
they
to.
were acting in the best interest of the child, why were they withholding medication while they were in detention?
We got to pause here.
Again, the father was illegal. They didn't want to break
Why were they withholding the medication, Dave?
up the family.
We got to pause here. You've been voted out.
Okay.
Listen, Dave, I'm going to be honest. I'm a little tired, but I'm not the president, so I'm not going to fall asleep, okay? Give me a second. Let's do that. So I want to defend the Democratic Party because...
Did you think that was funny?
I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But let's slow down. First of all, I'm pretty sure you talked a lot of shit about Joe Biden, who's demented, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to defend the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Do you not think Joe Biden had cognitive problems?
I'm joking. Hold on. I'm joking. Okay. The Democratic Party is...
Are you an improv or something? I'm just curious.
Can we lock in or
I'm just trying to
lock
figure
in,
it out.
King?
Yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
listen.
No, I'm with you. I'm trying to read what's going on
The
here.
Democratic Party, the left is clearly...
Dave, as a comedian, you should be able to roll with this a little bit better. Jesus Christ. No wonder you fucking failed at that.
Receptive to the needs of the American people because it's shown in the elections. It's shown in the candidates that they're giving out. If you need Zoran Mamdani in New York, you'll get it. If you need Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, you'll get it. If you need James Talarico in Texas, Ossoff in Georgia, you're going to get it. But you know what party hasn't changed their mind? What party is so crazy that they will go back on their #1 campaign promise and say affordability is a hoax? It's MAGA. And it's evident that, hold on, a lot of people say Trump is stupid. And I think he's a little dumb, but I think he's also malicious. Reality is what Donald Trump makes it. And a perfect example is his response to a tragedy. When Charlie Kirk was murdered, hours before there was even a suspect in custody, Donald Trump blamed half of the electorate. Nancy Mace said the Democrats own this. Van Orden said that it was the fake news media for peddling these radical points. You know what AOC said? This is a time that we need unity. This is a time we need to come together. We need to deal with political violence. Yeah. The Republican Party, MAGA, uses death as a cudgel to justify the unjustifiable. And that is denying reality. That's making reality whatever you want it to be. And people like you are corrupted enough to spew it all over social media.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll respond. Out of all the people, I have to say you're the worst, like by far.
Because you're having a lot of trouble responding to things I say. Yeah.
You honestly believe that there is a moral equivalence to the tone and tenor of what goes on the right versus what goes on the left? Yeah. Did Hassan Piker, who is the #1 influencer on the left, did he not just go on an interview? I'll give you 2 examples. He went on an interview a couple weeks ago and said,
"Not the government."
That he understands why Luigi Mangione killed Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO. When you guys open up that Pandora's box, guess what? There's a lot of people that don't like your ideology. And once you can kind of excuse violence, it's coming every which way. And then it happened again.
Lots of people on the right also like Luigi Mangione. I hate to tell you this.
In the New York Times interview that he did 2 weeks ago, he said the same thing. Well, Donald Trump, a lot of people don't like Donald Trump, so I can kind of understand why people might kill him. Once you guys do that, once you go past that red line, it literally ends the fact.
There were over 13 attempts on Barack Obama's life while he was in office. It's just none of them ever got close enough to actually shoot at him.
Fabric of what this country is, because we are allowed to have political disagreements. We have deep political disagreements. I would never tacitly endorse or pretend to condone someone if they tried to violently harm you or any of these people. But subtly on the left, that is being allowed. And that simply is not happening on the right. That simply is not happening.
Okay, we got to stop there because we're out of time.
That was just totally disconnected from reality. The Trump administration is very pro-violence. Trump has always been pro-violent. He's on his campaign trail. In his first term, he actively said that he would pay for anyone that, like, assaulted a protester at his rallies. He would pay their legal fees. He's paying the legal fees of January 6ers who assaulted police officers. Don't fucking pretend, Dave Rubin. You disingenuous fuckface. Ugh, gross.
Dave, we are now at the final portion of the video. Please look around the room, choose somebody who you haven't spoken to or who you want to speak to more. They will bring their own claim, and you'll debate for 10 minutes.
Sure. I have to say, first off, I thoroughly enjoyed this, believe it or not. This is what it's all about.
Did you, Dave? Did you enjoy this? This was terrible. Like, actively bad. There's a reason that the internet on both sides of the aisle are exploding with Dave Rubin got wrecked. This is Ruben in the edit, and I realized while I was editing that what I should have said there was, I guess we now know Dave Rubin's a bottom because he likes getting fucked. Oh yeah. Or maybe I shouldn't have. Well, it's in here now.
We can agree to disagree. It's what my entire career in life has been about, so that's just fine. There was some odd moments of real tension, and I could see some real hatred in a couple of the eyes, but 2 that I did not see it in were you and you. So this is a complete toss-up with the 2 of you. But I actually think our conversation was the most interesting, and I think there's the most room to try to get something on the other side of this. So I'd love to bring you back up. Yeah.
My surrounded claim is trans rights are human rights. One of the first initiatives of Donald Trump in this current presidency, he put forth an executive order essentially.
Did they start the timer before she sat down, or did they jump ahead a few seconds for some reason?
Attempting to ban gender-affirming healthcare for people under 19 years of age. Yeah. And when we say under 19 years of age...
Full disclosure, I've seen some clips of this part too.
This also includes adults who are 18 years old, who are old enough to go off and die in a war for oil.
In January of 2025, President Trump issued Executive Order 14187, protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation, which defines a child as anyone under 19, which is insane because of the number of legal documents we already have defining a child as someone under 18, and directs the federal government not to fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support gender-affirming medical treatment for people under 19, including puberty blockers, hormones, and surgeries, while instructing agencies like HHS and DOD to change coverage and funding rules accordingly. Like, why? Why move it from 18 to 19? Just to be a dick? Like, what is that? Also, like, the thing about medical care is that medical care isn't given on, like, based on your age. It's given based on your need. Republicans just don't care about your needs. That's the reality. They think everything's optional.
Imperialism in Israel, but they can't make their own healthcare decisions.
Okay, let's do this. I love how you guys have to get Israel into this thing. It's like Israel is the one place in the Middle East that you could go and you would be celebrated.
I couldn't get married there.
That's actually the truth. Well, yes, they are not perfect, and no country is, but you would be treated equally and with respect, and they have the biggest LGBT pride parade. It's coming up in 2 weeks. You should probably go. You might find it quite interesting. Anyway.
Their pride parade probably so big because they're still fighting for marriage rights there, buddy. Also, it's actually not the only place in the Middle East where it's legal to be gay. I believe it's, where is it? Jordan. These are not the same countries I got yesterday when I looked this up, so I'm very confused. But Cyprus, Northern Cyprus, Israel, Lebanon, and Turkey all allow for LGBT people. Makes me wonder how I Googled it the other day.
As far as the claim, I 100% believe that trans rights are human rights, or that trans people should be treated equally under the law 100%. Now, so what your claim is about people that are under, let's...
But your argument technically is that we shouldn't give them health care equally under the law.
Say 19, right? Now, that's a different thing. If you are going to chemically castrate a kid, or if you are going to give them...
No one's chemically castrating children. That's just not a thing. So what he's referring to is that Lupron Depot is a drug that we also use for chemical castration of pedophiles. Now, there's several things about this claim that he doesn't understand. For starters, thing number one, we don't give children the same level of dosage as we give to a pedophile to castrate them. Second, that pedophile has to take it a lot and for an extended period of time. Two, some pedophiles have actually reversed that with testosterone. Three, children with precocious puberty, the people these drugs were invented for, are typically on them for significantly longer than trans children who are normally only on them for like 1 to 2 years at the most. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of drugs. All drugs are dangerous if you take enough of them.
Hormone blockers or a series of other things when they are 5, 6, 7, 12, when they're in the middle of what? Wait,
that's not happening.
Wait. It is happening. It is happening. Or if you are going to...
You can't give a child puberty blockers before they start puberty. It would literally, there's no function to that.
To literally have schools where they are calling a child by a different gender and a different name without alerting the parents, etc.
That's not even remotely comparable to giving kids puberty blockers without consent. That's not comparable at all. That's almost nothing. That's like finding out your kid has a nickname at school that you didn't know about. Jesus.
Etc. These things are happening. Then I am not for that. But, however, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 39.
Can I ask a lady? See,
I'm 39 and a half.
I'll even use your pronouns, because as long as you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect.
I'm 39 and a half. I'll be 40 this summer.
All right, great.
And
so, wait. So
lady is not technically a pronoun.
Let me say something. So I want you to be treated under the law with 100% equality. Every single thing that I and everyone else in this country should be treated to, which is equality of opportunity and equality under law, you should be treated. I'm not that interested in talking about my sexuality. It's actually a very unimportant part of my life.
Because you're a very unsexy gay. There, I said it. You have the most asexual energy of any gay person I've ever seen. And actually, now that I'm meeting more asexuals, that joke is unfair to them. They are chill as fuck.
In a weird way, and maybe that's because I'll be 50 next month, and as time goes by, you realize you just are who you are, and you do the best you can in the world, right? But I understand feeling. I grew up in a time when there was no gay marriage, and when I was a kid, for however confused I was or anything else, there was I never thought about the future because it wasn't even a thing. Like, there was literally no future, and then magic happened over time, and we got equal rights.
He just called the gay civil rights movement a magic. Oh, it happened out of nowhere. I don't know what happened. Oh, what could it possibly have been? People acting incredibly woke about it? Because it was that. It is that. Yeah. You got those rights because there were other gay people, more active gay people who fucking gave a fuck, Dave, who actively fought for those rights along with their allies. Dave, I can't, it's so fucking mind-bending that you literally just did that in reference to a civil rights movement that specifically supports your rights. And you're nearly 50, you're old enough to know this shit. I was young. I was pretty fucking young. I mean, I was in college when it passed. Unless I'm mixing up my dates. You're over a decade older than me. Wait, did he say he was turning 50 or he is 50? If he's turning 50, he's not that much older. He's only almost a decade older than me.
Right. I have been married for, God, it's a long time now. I've been married for about 13 years. My husband and I have been together for 15 years. We're in a 100% monogamous relationship. We have two of the most incredible kids.
Why don't you say thank you to all the gay activists who got out there and got woke for you, Dave?
Who I want to grow up with the most amount of respect and love and who are safe and cherished and all of those wonderful things, as I hope if you want, you will get in your life too. The reason I mention that is because the difference between equal rights for everybody, versus what you might do to a child are very different things. If there is a child who I suspect...
Trans healthcare is healthcare. To limit someone's healthcare is not to treat them equally under the law. That's how it works, Dave.
You were a young kid. How old were you when you thought you were in the...
I was 5. I was 5 years old when
Okay.
I realized that I was a trans person.
Okay. I can accept that.
Can I also ask how old you were when you realized that you were gay?
I mean, I came out very late for a series of other reasons.
And are you still gay?
Only after 10 p.m., so I don't know what time it is right now.
Okay.
Oh, look, I made him laugh. There you go.
You know, I think...
Wait, I'm not... Wait, hold on. I'm really... I think I'm granting you an awful lot here. The only thing that I...
It's funny, Dave, because it's very believable for you as a person that you would not do anything gay until you went to bed with your husband.
I would say, related to a 5-year-old who is having gender dysphoria or whatever term you want to apply it to, is that you should wait until the child can make those decisions properly for themselves. That your brain at 5 was not developed enough to do it, and there was so much...
But part of trans healthcare is going to therapy. Obviously, it would make sense for that 5-year-old to go to therapy. Also, we're not going to give a 5-year-old fucking drugs, because that's actually actively against the WPATH standard. And also, there's no reason to give a 5-year-old drug, because chemically, male and female are basically the same as children before puberty. So, no, Dave. Maybe you need to chill the fuck out. Only a malpracticing doctor would hurt a 5-year-old in this scenario. Let them dress how they want, let them change their name, let them use pronouns, and let them go to therapy. Those are all gender-affirming care for a child of that appropriate age. So calm the fuck down, Dave.
Social pressure over the last couple of years to trans kids. Abigail Schreier wrote an...
There's no social pressure to do that. What the fuck do you even think that means?
Incredible book about this. That a certain amount of it is a social contagion. That is true.
That book is not based on science. That book is written by an investigative journalist who literally sent surveys to websites and forums for parents who were upset that their children were trans. That's not a... First of all, it's barely science. It's barely science at all. None of the people involved were trans in the surveys, by the way, or at least none that I'm aware of. And on top of that, these surveys were literally being filled out by people who we would naturally expect to have been actively surprised when their children came out to them. Because these are people who didn't want to accept them. So these people were walking around their whole lives with an image of their children as cis. Of course, they're going to be fucking surprised when their kids come out. That's just basic psychology and common sense, Dave. That book is a fucking travesty. It is not science. It is not a study. It is alarmist propaganda. It is not a good book.
Empirically true. I'm not saying it was you, right? I'm not.
And also, a survey can't tell you if something is empirically true. Nothing in that book would give you empirical data.
I'm friends with Blair White. I believe that Blair was biologically a male and believes that she, and I will call her she because she treats me with respect and I'll treat her with respect.
That's irrelevant to the pronouns, Dave. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Whether or not you like a person is irrelevant as to whether or not you understand the concept of them as a trans individual. It's not relevant.
That she transitioned when the time was right. The issue for most people on the right is about the kids. I can tell you this. You know, it's funny because a lot of you tried to use my sexuality against me. Yeah, I'll get there. Listen, a lot of you tried to use my sexuality against me, and I can tell, and it's interesting because...
Dave, the reason someone would want to use your sexuality against you is because you actively promote policy that hurts people like you. Do you not understand why people bring up your homosexuality? Do you not understand that it's a weird contrast? Do you not see that you are surrounded by people who will never respect you? Dave, you are Ernst Röhm. You are the Nazi Ernst Röhm, friends with Hitler, leader of the brown shirts, and they killed him, Dave. This has been repeating something I said in the previous video, just in case you haven't seen that one.
Because you guys also think sexuality is very important, right? So you would think I would have been afforded.
What do you mean sexuality is important? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what is the overall, like, no. Like, see, like, this is the issue, is that leftist theory isn't that something is better than another thing. In fact, it's the opposite of something is better than another thing. Leftist ideology merely says that we recognize where society oppresses people, and then we oppose that oppression. Gay people are very vulnerable to oppression, because gay people have had rights for literally less time than it takes for God to blink, Dave. In the span of hundreds of years of America, they have literally only just you have literally only just gotten civil rights in a time frame that a person could literally live less than their whole lifetime.
As someone that travels in circles that you guys don't, I go to Republican things, and I have to traverse that a little bit, and it can be tricky at times, but I've shown
Dave, the fact that it can be tricky at times is a red flag.
That you can be a decent human being who can have a family and be monogamous. That job.
Dave, I really appreciate you being kind. We're less than 5 now, and I have not really had a moment to speak.
Yeah. So again, I'm just making the point between children and adults. I want you to have.
And that's exactly what I'm going to respond to right now.
Enough.
I appreciate your kindness. I appreciate you not misgendering me.
Damn, he did talk a long time.
I appreciate you treating me like I'm just a regular human being. And that's what trans people are. We're just regular human beings with the same struggles, trying to get through this life. Actually, more struggles, because we have this whole group of people who want to take away our rights. As somebody who's been an elected...
So can you
let
just
me
tell me
finish,
what right?
let me speak.
But what right?
Yes,
I'm just asking. What
I'm
right as an
saying
adult?
Right now, as somebody who's been an elected official in Los Angeles since 2019, every single year I've seen more and more and more anti-LGBTQIA bills moving across the federal legislature and across state legislatures all across the U.S. And when I say anti-LGBTQIA bills, what I actually mean is anti-trans bills. Bills that are trying to limit our existence in society. Bills that are trying to limit how we can receive healthcare, how we can make our own autonomous healthcare decisions, how we can even participate in going to the bathroom. We all have to take a shit, and that is something we should be able to do freely and privately without somebody recording us in the bathroom and trying to make us go viral and make it seem like we are the predators. Now, you describe this idea of 5-year-olds being chemically castrated. Here's the thing. You cannot compare a 5-year-old who is going to perhaps socially transition and wants to go by a name that is opposite of the gender they were assigned at birth, or want to wear clothes that are different. 5-year-olds are not receiving any sort of medical transition. And so you say that they should wait. And that's true. And that's exactly why puberty blockers are prescribed to teenagers that are about to go through puberty. And here's the issue.
How old is that, would you say?
I would say anywhere from probably maybe like 10, 11, 12.
Right.
And here's the thing.
But do you think their brains are developed enough to know the full,
yes, I do.
The full ramifications of what they're doing?
Yes,
a 10-year-old?
because puberty blockers have been around for over 30 years. They've been prescribed to kids who are experiencing precocious puberty. And yet this has never been an issue for the right. It is only an issue for the right when somebody decides, oh, I'm trans, and they together with their family and their physicians want to make that decision. So they're not getting surgery at 10 years old. They're taking puberty blockers to make that decision over time with their family and their physicians. There's no reason why you or the President of the United States should be able to decide what is right for somebody's healthcare, for an individual, for somebody else's child, unless you are their doctor or their parents.
Okay, so listen. I have a couple of fundamental disagreements with that when it comes to minors, but the issue is about trans rights or human rights. So we can
trans people are disproportionately unhaused, disproportionately experience housing discrimination, healthcare discrimination.
Again, if you told me, wait, hold on.
Are legal.
Hold on.
We are actually experiencing discrimination every single day in
every
every realm of society.
Yeah, I've experienced discrimination. I'm going to guess almost everyone here in some way has something that they've been discriminated against or judged upon or something else. What you have in America is equality under the law, and you have an opportunity
we don't when Republicans are trying to legislate against us.
But tell me, so you as an adult, what?
Yes, Dave, you have to understand what it means that there's legislation being put through that actively affects these individuals in just living their lives socially. You have to understand that that is impeding on their rights.
Law is stopping you from doing anything that another person cannot do, that literally anyone in this room cannot do.
See, this is the thing, is you were trying to hide behind this idea of the law.
No, but I mean that.
But the reality is laws are not protecting trans people. If they were, trans people would not be disproportionately unemployed.
It's true. Dave, you're only looking at laws as is he going positive or negative? You're only looking at positive laws and not negative laws, or is it the other way around? The point is, you're only looking at laws that are legislation forward, in meaning that they are written to cause a specific effect. You're not looking at the legislation that doesn't exist to protect people who don't currently have those protections. Those are two fundamental different ways to look at the law and how it affects individuals.
What would you like the law to do for you? Again, the law can guarantee equality. It can't guarantee protection, right? So
yes, it certainly can.
To have equality requires a level of protection, Dave. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, are you do you literally, like, what is, hold on. What is Dave Rubin's educational background? Dave, you graduated high school, and you went to Binghamton University, part of the State University of New York system, where you earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Political Science. And you also spent a semester in Israel. Interesting. But Dave, you should know more. You should know more about how the government works. Did you just like, at some point in college be like, get libertarian brained and then just stop listening to the government because you had already decided the answer was less government? Like, Dave, Jesus Christ. Or is this, do you need people to think you're this stupid so they'll know you didn't do anything illegal with the Russia money?
So what would you like the law to do for you?
I would like the law to protect trans people, and it's not the law. Our legislators are actively legislating against us.
Again, if there was a law, if you can point me to a law that was a description.
So here's the thing. In order to keep a person from being fired for a immutable characteristic of themselves, you need laws saying they can't be fired for that. Whether it's, you can't be fired for being gay, you can't be fired for being black, you can't be fired for being Irish, whatever. You can't be fired for your religion. Those are the types of discriminations that you need laws to prevent that type of discrimination. That is actively a type of law that provides protections. Point is that Dave Rubin is actively ignoring the need for laws that prevent crimes against you.
Discriminating against trans adults. They can't get a job. They can't, whatever. Then of course
I just said at the beginning of this debate, Donald Trump is trying to ban gender-affirming health care for people who are 18 years old.
You're talking about minors. You're talking about minors.
18-year-olds aren't minors. They can go off and die in a war, but for some reason they can't make their own autonomous health care decisions, according to Donald Trump.
Okay, listen. When we're talking about young people, it's a different thing. It's
exactly. And these are not your young people. They're not his young people. These are, no 5-year-old is walking into a medical office and getting puberty blockers without the consent of their parent or.
And also, no 5-year-olds getting puberty blockers because those are for people who are experiencing some form of puberty.
So you don't think there's any element of social contagion over the last 10 years?
I don't.
There is literally zero science that indicates that social contagion could exist. For your theory of social contagion to even be possible, I would say that if a person is going to be socially contagious by just spending time around trans people into believing that they are trans, if that is a thing that is going to happen to that person, then there is already something wrong with their mind in the fact that they would be that fucking suggestible.
And even if there is, that's okay, because there's nothing wrong with being trans. And if somebody decides to detransition, that's okay, but they can't tell everybody else that they're not allowed to transition.
Again, I think we're sort of splitting hairs on this, that we're agreeing to disagree on perhaps.
How, Dave? How?
To agree to disagree on the underage portion of it. But again, as an
How many
adult,
times have you seen
trans children still need some level of medical attention? Even if that's only social, even if that's going to therapy, Dave, you're putting basic things like that at risk for them as well.
How many times have you seen people on the right make fun of trans people because, especially trans women, because they look like a man? But you're allowed what prevents them by allowing them to go through puberty blockers and to make their own autonomous healthcare decisions.
Yeah, but okay, so have we whittled this down to some people make jokes about people? They do. They make jokes about people.
They're not just joking. They're trying to legislate against our very existence.
Dave, you missed the point there so hard. Someone should call, like, social services. I don't know if that joke makes sense. We'll find out in the end.
But again, if
your friend Michael Knowles at CPAC said that we need to eradicate transgenderism in society. That is a direct threat to me, my neighbors, my friends, and family.
Okay, I promise you this. If Michael Knowles or anyone else starts pushing for legislation that will jail you or stop you from getting a job or any of the other freedoms that we all enjoy, I promise you I will be on your side of that. So
it's too late, Dave. They're already doing that, and you're actively fighting on the other side. Simply giving the obfuscation that you have, you are actively doing the opposite of what you are saying you would do in this moment.
I can't wait to be on your show soon.
All right, then there we go.
Thanks for chatting, Dave.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Honestly, Dave probably will book them because Dave will be desperate to get anyone on his stupid show. We don't need any more. We don't need any more. Whew-wee, okay. I really wish I'd recorded the first one at 1 1/4 speed. That was a lot less painful, but it's over. I'm done. And so is Dave Rubin's career. Couldn't have happened to a better fella. Because honestly, he's infuriating. Like, specifically on gay topics. Like, specifically, it is specifically infuriating how disconnected he is from the people in his community. In fact, arguably, I don't know if Dave is actually actively part of the gay community, which might be actually pretty sad. Is that why you're a Republican, Dave? Because you don't get invited to drag karaoke anymore? Or was it because you were a wet blanket about it being drag karaoke? Dave, actually, that's a big thing about Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin has serious wet blanket energy. Like, really wet blanket energy. It's kind of funny, actually. So I finally saw all that. A lot of those debaters did a good job. They kept him on his toes. Dave, you did terrible. Dave, that was literally embarrassing. You failed to establish your own points effectively. You couldn't rebuttal the most devastating of their claims against you. You pivoted like a bitch. And by that I mean poorly. Really, really fucking poorly. Anyways, if you watched this part, which I doubt, please like, subscribe, comment, share your thoughts on this debate, or as I call it, a political gangbang. Hopefully my audio didn't get fucked up like it did last time, my apologies. But I'll find out, once again, in the edit. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful whatever, wherever, whoever you are. Special thanks to bscove17. A supporter of this program. If you would like to support this program like bscove17, you know where that button is.